Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. In this short video, we're going to be speaking about the difference between al-Fusha and al-Amiyya. So al-Fusha is what's translated as classical Arabic or modern standard Arabic, is a literary form of Arabic. So the form of Arabic that's found in the Quran, in Ahadith. It's also the Arabic that's spoken in the news. It's also the Arabic that's spoken or that's written, I should say, and spoken also in academic fields. Al-Amiyya is colloquial Arabic, so the Arabic that is spoken in everyday life and has different dialects and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's what we're talking about here. We see the difference between Fusha and Amiyya. So the Arabic language can really be broken down and can be looked at from two different perspectives. Okay, we have an Amiyya, which is what I just explained, colloquial Arabic, and there are many different dialects, right? So we have the Gulf dialects, and under the Gulf dialects, we have many different types. Then we have the Syrian or the Levant dialect, le Levant, that's found in that area of Sham. And then we also have the Maghribi dialects, which is found in North Africa. We have the Egyptian dialect. We have all these different dialects that different Arab countries will respectively speak. But then we also have Al-Fusha. And Al-Fusha is a term that's used to both refer to classical Arabic, which is what's found in the Quran and the Hadith, and so on and so forth, and pre-Islamic poetry also. And then we have modern standard Arabic, which is pretty much the up-to-date form of classical Arabic that incorporates, modern day terms, whether it be terms in politics or technology or medicine or engineering and so on and so forth. So in reality, classical Arabic and MSA are the exact same thing, to be very frank with you. There's not really any difference there. And both of them in the Arab-speaking world are referred to as al-Fusha. So if an Arab speaker, if he goes to the Arab world and he says, do you speak Fusha or Amiyya? What he means by Fusha is both classical Arabic or MSA, because in the Arab world, there's really no distinction between the two. Both of them are referred to as Fusha. It's only in Western academic fields where there's distinction between modern standard Arabic, MSA, and classical Arabic is made, where MSA is used to refer to the up-to-date modern Arabic, modern classical Arabic, and the classical Arabic is what they use to refer to what's found in the Quran and pre-Islamic poetry. Okay. So what exactly is the difference between these two though, right? It's because as someone who's learning Arabic, you always come to this discussion of Fusha and then colloquial Arabic and what's the difference between them though. So that's inshallah what we're going to be explaining here. So the difference are as so, very briefly, of course, there's more than this, but this is just the main points that someone should try to remember. First and foremost is that Fusha is a written language with well-defined rules, conventions, and orthography. So Fusha is the Arabic that's usually used to write. Classical Arabic is usually the Arabic that you're going to find people writing with. So books in Arabic are written with Fusha usually. Of course, there are some that are written with colloquial Amiyya Arabic, but usually books, especially academic books, are written in Fusha Arabic. Likewise, news is written in Fusha Arabic, and the list goes on. Okay. Now, Amiyya, on the other hand, is usually not written except for maybe social posts on social media. You will find Amiyya being used by Arab speakers. And likewise, you may find certain folk literature written in Amiyya, but usually that's not the case. So, and Amiyya Arabic dialects are not typically written, although a certain amount of literature exists in some of them. Okay, so in the Arab world, usually Fusha is used to write specifically serious topics or in serious fields, while Amiyya is usually used in folk literature. Not say that's not serious, but usually it's used in folk literature, and it's also used in social media, okay? Like people on Facebook and so on and so forth. Second difference I want to talk about here is that Fusha is morphologically richer. So the morphology of Fusha is a lot more rich. So for example, in Fusha, we have the dual form, right? Kitabani, Sayaratani, Masjidani. So it's a lot more, quote unquote, complex morphologically, while Amiyya, dialectal Arabic or colloquial Arabic, is a lot simpler in terms of its morphology. So usually, not all, but a lot of Arabic dialects do not have the dual form. So you just have the singular and the plural form. So it's a lot simpler. The morphology is simplified pretty much. Okay, that's just one example. But there are some dialects that the dual form will still be used though. Likewise, Fusha is grammatically richer. So for example, there's a concept of the grammatical cases in Fusha, right? I'rab. And I'rab is the change that you're seeing at the end of the word because of the changing of active elements entering upon it. entering upon the word. So Muhammadun will change to Muhammadin, will change to Muhammadan. Why? Because of different active elements changing its grammatical case ending. So that's found in classical Arabic. And Amiya, it's pretty much not used at all. So you'll find, for example, verbs that will be majrurun, right? In Amiya, you'll find certain verbs that will end with a kasra and so on and so forth. So the grammatical case ending system is not really used in Amiya. So it's grammatically simpler. Okay, so as you can see, Amiya, colloquial Arabic, is a simplified version of Fusha. So, and you can say simplified, or you can say it's a less rich version. Likewise, there are some lexical differences, and this is where probably the main, if not the biggest difference between Fusha and Amiya is. Because grammatically speaking, Fusha and Amiya are very similar, if not, not really that different. Just that the grammatical case endings aren't really there anymore. But verb conjugation is a lot of times the same. Also, morphologically speaking, a lot of times it's also very similar. But the thing that really makes Fusha and Amiya different is the lexical differences. The words are said differently. So for example, in Arabic we say hunaka, right? But in Khariji dialect they say hinak, hinak, right? Likewise, certain times they're going to change the jim, right? The jim will change to aga, gulutu, instead of qulutu. And the list goes on. So there are a lot of lexical differences. The words are usually a lot of times the same, but they're said differently. A lot of times they're the same, but they're said differently. Likewise, Fusha has an official status. So in Arab countries, Fusha is the official language. When they say Arabic is our language, they mean Fusha Arabic. While dialectal Arabic, so colloquial Arabic, usually does not really have an official status in the country. It's just spoken, it's understood this is, our dialect, but it's not, government papers are not written in that dialect. They're written in Fusha. So officially speaking, the government uses Fusha. It doesn't use the dialect, even though, of course, in the government bodies, they're going to use the dialect to Arabic on their daily dealings. But when it comes time to write things, when it comes time to pass laws, that's all written in Fusha. And then likewise, one of the main difference also is that Fusha is taught in school. So obviously, Fusha is not spoken on a day-to-day basis. So Fusha is usually learned by Arabic speakers in their home countries in schools. So it's when Arabs go to school, or people living in Arab countries, when they go to school, that they actually learn Fusha Arabic and this grammar system and this morphological system and how to write Arabic and how to write this Fusha. While Amiya is not taught in school, rather it's learned in society. So Amiya, colloquial Arabic, is just learned from your parents and from your friends and so on and so forth. And that's why people that are learning Arabic always have a difficulty learning dialectal Arabic, learning colloquial Arabic. Why? Because there isn't that much material out there, right? Because it's not taught in school, even for Arabs. It's just learned in their societies. So these are the main differences between Fusha and Amiya. Now, one thing I want to talk about now is the concept of diglossia. Okay, because it's very, very important if you want to understand how Arab countries and how the Arab language pretty much functions pretty much in Arab countries. You need to understand the concept of diglossia. Diglossia is how the Arabic language functions in Arab society. Okay, so what is diglossia? Diglossia is that two related varieties of a language are used in different set of functions in one society. So to simplify it, diglossia is when you have two sets of the same variety of the language. So you have one language, but you have two versions of it. Okay, one version is used for a certain field, is used for a certain function in the society, while the other language is used for another function and another sphere of life in the society. And this is not only found in Arabic. For example, in Haiti, we have Creole. So in Haiti, they have French. Obviously, Haiti was colonized by the French. So in Haiti, they use French for, all the academic and all the government bodies and everything like that. So French is the official language that's used in quote unquote, academic fields and so on and so forth. But in day-to-day living, they speak Creole, right? They speak Haitian Creole, which is obviously Haitian Creole is very similar to French. Haitian Creole is pretty much just a pidgin that was created from African languages mixing with French. So here in Haiti, we have two languages. One language that's used for official, formal setting, which is French, And then the other language which is used for, day-to-day life, which is Creole. Likewise, in Europe, in the Middle Ages, we have Latin, right? French comes from Latin, Italian comes from Latin. All the Romance language go back to Rome, so they go back to Latin. So, for example, in a lot of countries like France and also in Britain for some time, Latin would be used for, the clergy, and will be used for maybe even some of the law, while English or French would be used for day-to-day life. Obviously, that stopped after a while. Latin just became a dead language, but there was this time when there was this diglossia, where you have two varieties of the same language, but that are being used for two different functions. Now, usually when you have diglossia, you're going to have a high verity and you're going to have a low verity. So the high version of the language is going to be used for mosque, yani religious functions, personal letters, political speeches, university lectures, news broadcasts. Okay, so for these types of, very formal settings, the higher verity of the language is going to be used. So, for example, in Europe, it was Latin. Latin was used for a lot of these things, not all of them, but for a lot of these things I just mentioned. In Haiti, also, French is used for a lot of these things mentioned here. While the low verity, the lesser version, quote unquote, at least in the eyes of the users, the lesser version will be used for daily work life, conversation with friends and family, folk literature, TV shows, and movies. Okay, so this is a very common, not a very common, but it's a fairly common concept and a fairly common occurrence that will happen with many different languages, as I saw, as you can see in the examples, and in many different countries in the world. Arabic is a great example, and Arabic was one of the main, if not the first one, that was used to bring up this concept of diglossia. So diglossia, this concept was developed by William Marcel, which was a French linguist and Arabist, and he saw this reality in the Arab world that Fusha was used as a high verity for mosque and personal letters and political speech and so on and so forth, while Amiya would be used for daily work life and conversations and folk literature. And then later scholars like Charles Ferguson, who was a famous social linguist, he came and he further expanded this concept and applied it to other languages and other countries. So this is diglossia. So the Arab word functions like this. Okay. Now, as an Arab, someone who's trying to learn the Arabic language, you have to understand first and foremost that why is Fusha the high verity, right? Why is Fusha given all this importance and it's used as the official language and so on and so forth? Well, there are pretty much three different reasons according to Arab social linguistics. First and foremost, it's the written language. So it has well-defined rules and conventions and orthography. We have a wealth of scholarly work that was done on classical Arabic in terms of how it should be written, how it should be, the letters and everything, how they should be written, and how the writing system functions. Okay, while the Amiya, colloquial Arabic, this work was never done on it. There's no standardized version on how colloquial Arabic should necessarily be written. Okay, likewise, Arabic literature tradition, including medieval and pre-Islamic poetry, was all in classical Arabic, right? So all this literary work that we have in the Arabic language is all in classical Arabic for most of it. And then the main reason why Fusha is the high verity in Arab society is because it's the language of the Quran and Sunnah and Islamic texts. So obviously it is seen as a type of holy language, okay? It's tied directly to the Quran and to the Sunnah and is part of our deen as Muslims. This is why Fusha is the high verity. Now, just to close off with a few topics or for two different points. The first point is you have to use each verity in their respective functions. So a lot of times people that are learning Arabic, specifically students of knowledge, they're going to say, I'm only going to learn Fusha, and I'm only going to use Fusha, and I'm not going to, corrupt my tongue by learning Amiya and so on and so forth. It is all well and fine. But in reality, if you want to be able to really use the Arabic language, you have to use it as the Arabs they use it. So this is something that social linguistics they mentioned. So Charles Arbor Ferguson, who is the one who had expanded the concept of diglossia and who was himself very proficient in Arabic language, and who was a professor at the University of Standard, he says a person who uses the high verity in an informal setting or the low verity in the formal setting becomes an object of ridicule due to his or her violation of social linguistic rules associated with these two verities. So, and anybody who's learning Arabic will know this. If you go up and you try to start speaking Fusha to an Arab in, you know, a shop, or even at the mosque outside of, you know, religious functions, it's not going to go very well, in the sense that the person is clearly going to see that you only know Fusha, and it's going to be very awkward for that person to really have a very long conversation with you, because he's not used to speaking this language outside of these formal settings. Okay, so it's sort of like someone coming to you and speaking very, very formal English, maybe even a type of Shakespearean English to you while you're at, you know, the coffee shop or you're at Tim Hortons. Be very strange. So same thing here. And also Alan Stewart Kaye, who was a professor at the University of California, he mentions that even classical Arabic literature and grammar professors in Arab countries go home and speak their colloquial dialects with their children, families, and friends. And as us, as students of knowledge, look at any ulama, you look at any scholar, all of them, when they go home, they're not speaking Fusha, right? The scholars, whether they be in Mauritania or in Egypt or in Saudi or in the Kharij or whatever the case may be, when they go home, they're speaking their colloquial Arabic. So also, if you want to sort of integrate and be able to experience the Arabic language as a day-to-day, daily language, you have to use it in this way, and you have to learn a dialect. Okay, so this is one point that I want to highlight. The second point I want to highlight before I close is that Ferguson, so Charles Ferguson, who we just talked about, he deduced three major problems owing to the diagnostic nature of Arabic. So anybody who's learning Arabic is going to run across these three problems. Okay, when it comes to this whole concept of there's Arami and there's Fusha, because of this nature of the Arabic language, that there's these two different varieties, right? The high variety and the low variety, you're going to run into these three problems. The first one is that you're actually learning two languages in one, which complicates the learning process, right? So when someone is learning Arabic, he's pretty much has to learn two languages. He has to learn the Fusha, or she has to learn the Fusha, and then she or he has to learn the Amiya, right? And I highly recommend that you start by learning the Fusha, because all the dialects are based on this classical Arabic. All the dialects go back to this classical Arabic. So start by learning the base, and then you can start learning the dialects. But in reality, you are going to have to end up learning two different languages. Of course, depending on which dialect you go, certain dialects are close to classical Arabic and certain are further away. Second problem that comes is that learners have to choose a dialect, as there is no standard dialect like other diagnostic languages. So there are other languages that are diagnostic, but they'll have like one standard dialect. It's not the case for Arabic. You have to choose which dialect you're going to learn. And usually you have to choose it based on where you're planning on going to study or going to live, or which one you find the most pleasing, right? And I have another video where I break down the different dialects in a very broad fashion, and I give my recommendation on which ones I recommend an Arabic student should learn. I have another video on that. Then the third thing is that the occurrence of intermediate forms between the extreme poles of high variety and low variety Arabic. And this last point here is explained in the other video that I'm talking about, where I break down the dialects. So this third topic here will be explained in that other video that I have. So this is some of the difficulties that you will face as an Arabic learner. But if you keep pushing, if you keep learning, if you keep studying, it's a very rich and a very, very rewarding experience. So I hope this video was clear in explaining the difference between Fusha and Amiya, and also explaining how the diglossic nature of Arabic and how that its ramifications in terms of an Arabic student or a student of the Arabic language.